Hi everyone, how are you? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So another day that we meet here to work from the Sacrum chakra in the emotional week of Capricorn, so related to the frustrations. I forgot something that I wanted to say to you. So just to start with this, for the people that were asking because you are new, remember that it doesn't matter if you hadn't seen the ones I did before, the videos that I did before, you can start today and going on. So it doesn't matter. I will recommend to see them some other moment, of course, but it's not necessary to see all the others before in order to catch up with these videos when we are here. Okay, doesn't matter. I will remember anyway some moments. So another thing is that I've seen questions or some things that you were doing about the posts, and sometimes if I don't answer to some of those questions, it's because I already did in some other posts or videos. Okay, so if you see those videos, or read the post, remember that they are like kind of episodes or chapters of a book. So you have to check each one of them to see how the story is going. Okay, that's why I don't repeat many of the things unless I think it's needed. And according to this, also I would say that some of the questions that some people is doing are very personal, and they were asking me why haven't you speak about this or that. Well, it's impossible to speak about everything. So the post and the videos explain big pictures of the topics, so then you can do the intelligent action of discerning that information to understand it according to your own life and experience. Okay, so it would be impossible to talk about all the issues of the world, and even more the personal ones. So that's why I try to be much more open, so you can adapt. So once said, this thing sometimes frustrates the people when you read something that others are writing. So let's go to the topic for today, which is frustration, which is very Capricornian, by the way. So another thing that I wanted to say is that the things that I am writing in the blog every day is a conversation between I and am, and this is my I and am. Okay, so each one of you has your own. So the things that I write there is a conversation with my own self. So don't expect in my own self the answers for your own selves. I'm just a reflection to show you that you can also have the same conversations with your own with your own being. So I am encouraging you to do exactly the same. And the way you do it is exactly the same as I do it. Just write down the question and don't expect to understand the answer. Just start to write and write and write and write. And don't judge it. Just don't think about it. And sometimes it could be difficult at the first, but then it will be easier. Okay? So frustration. We are surrounded by frustration today in our lives because we are constantly expecting for things to happen and they don't happen. So here comes the frustration. So frustration comes from the word Frau. Frau is also the word that originates fraud. So when someone is a fraud, is or something is a fraud, is something that you expected to be different, and suddenly you realize that it's not. That or you expected for it to be something, and suddenly you figure out that it was something different. Okay. So when you discover that something is the opposite or quite different from what you expected, you consider that a cheating, deception. So that deception is what we call emotionally frustration, which is the aspect of the fraud. The fraud. So we have two different point of views of a fraud. We can see it from the outside or see it from the inside. When we see the perception of the fraud from the outside, we usually say that someone lied to you, that someone was doing, someone was hiding things from you, that is a fraud because you cannot see what the other person was doing, so you consider yourself like frustrated because of someone lying to you. So you consider that situation or that person a fraud. But let's look into the real point of view of this, which is that is your perception. That is what you perceive from that situation. Because normally you are perceiving the reality. Everything that you perceive, that you see, is a perception. So because of this, the fraud is something that you perceive. It's not something real outside. I mean, you are the one expecting for things to be different. So it is all because of you that you see that in that way, and you couldn't see that coming before because you were expecting for something different. For example, usually we say, or I've been a lot of people saying that the states had an election that was a fraud. But the real thing is that there was no a fraud in the election. The system of the election in the states is a fraud. And why? Because everyone accepts the lie that they live in a democracy. When they never had. So the fraud is basically because a lot of people is holding that lie because you believe in that thing. Okay. Let's see it from two different point of views. So we can see the fraud from two different point of views. These two point of views is, in one side, I can tell that something is a fraud because when I see it, I can see that this is not correlative with this. So I see the lie, that someone was lying to me because this, when I have been told this is like this, and then I discovered that no, it was the other way, so I can say that was a fraud, that was a lie. That's a perception from the external point of view. But then I have the internal point of view of the fraud, which is I refuse to accept what I see because according to my belief, that is not what I expected. So I consider that a fraud, even if it is not, just because it doesn't match with my perception. You know what I mean? So these are two different point of views of a fraud, the external one and the internal one. So the internal one is the most important one because everything is basically from the inside, from within. And remember, the brain tries to protect you. So the brain will always try to say, I am right, and will never say, you are right. Because the brain tries to survive. So now, from now on, I must say, I don't care if there was a fraud in the States. I don't care if there was a fraud in a company, in economics. I don't care, really. Because what I really care is why we have created a fraud in the first place. And the reason why we create that is because of our own perception of what is fraud. We are the first fraud of all. Because we are the ones holding the system of living through beliefs that are a fraud. It's from our inner point of view. So the only reason why a fraud becomes systemic in a civilization, in a society, is because the individuals are defrauding themselves. So why a person defrauds itself? Why? It's just because of the need of survival. Why we decept, commit deception on ourselves all the time. We cheat to ourselves. And that's because we are afraid to die, to not exist anymore. The greatest hoax of our lives are expectations. Our whole life is built based on expectations. And why is that? Because we create this system to try to reach something that is not real. So we commit this hoax to ourselves in order to keep going, to survive. That's the biggest fraud of all that we do to ourselves. So what happens when you arrive to the point to understand that your expectation is not true, and suddenly the things you were expecting for, it just doesn't come to happen. They just don't exist, or you can't do anything. What happened in that moment? Well, the fraud you were living in becomes an emotion that you call frustration. The frustration is the emotion that shows me that I was living in an illusion of expecting something from my self hoax, my own created hoax. Every social and cultural hoax and fraud that generates frustration is born in the moment, it's born in the need of every individual to believe in something. So if anyone here between all of you believes in me, in what I say, suddenly, someday, it will come up that I will be a deception for you. That I will be a fraud for you. And not because I am one. It's just because your expectations. So everything that we do in our lives, that we see in our lives, we see it through our own beliefs and expectations. And if those expectations are not coming to reality as I expect for them to be, so I will believe they are a lie. So if I recognize that that was a fraud, a lie, then I will discover that I have been living through a lie. And suddenly I get frustrated. So I just put myself as an example, but maybe you do it with some people around you, some famous people, masters, aliens. I don't know. You put expectations in maybe something different. Things, projects. I cannot even trust my own senses because my five senses are just tools that my brain uses to interpret the reality outside. So it's not truth, it's also a hoax. So now think about this. What if my sixth sense, the one that can perceive the universe, is also another tool to interpretate, that helps my brain to interpretate the reality of other dimensions and all the other beings, the interdimensional beings and masters and light ones, all those people, they are also just a perception of my brain. And they don't really exist. Everything, what my brain interprets, anything that my brain interprets is a hoax, is a deception. Because everything is an interpretation of the brain, but it's not the truth. Remember, what is a fraud? A fraud is something that I expect for it to be in one way, and it ends up to be something different. That's a fraud, from frauds. So the purpose is a deception. It's a hoax. Why? It's a hoax that helps us to be creators, to manifest, to expand. And this is why every time that we put our faith on accomplishing a purpose, when we get to it, we get frustrated because it didn't really exist. So it will be never as I expected for it to be. So imagine this, for example, 2012, December 21st. That was something. That was like a date, like everyone was like, oh, that day. We have been waiting for that date for a long time, for something, to do something. Because something would happen that day. What happened that day? Nothing. Happened anything. It was a normal day in the planet. Nothing happened. That day. That a lot of people of the world believing in that date got ready in consciousness, raising its consciousness for that moment. So there was so many people in the world connected to their own selves for that moment that it really worked. But the date is normal. It's just another day in the calendar. So we have two people in that day, 2012, December 12th, December 21. There were some people that when the day arrived, they were like, wow, yes, it was not important the date. Now I know that I did all of this and I became this to be like this in this date. So it's not important what was happening in that moment. It was how I was going to arrive to that date. So it was like, yes, I got it. A lot of people got it. And there was a huge amount of people saying, I did all of this for nothing. So they got frustrated for doing all these different things through many times, and suddenly they got into December 21st, 2012, and nothing. They were expecting something more like Hollywood. Nope. And this is when a lot of people used to say, you shouldn't believe in these spiritual things, because what happened in 2012? Nothing. It was a normal day, nothing. Nothing, really nothing. It was the year when the most biggest group of people in the world got conscious, aware. So it really happened something. So to wrap this information today, let's say this, that we as humans have been living through expectations our whole life. And when we start to listen into the truth of the universe, we get frustrated because we are expecting for a God in the skies to give a meaning to our lives. But we are the creators. We are the ones creating. That's why today we are in the Sacrum Chakra Day. There's this expectation of a God in the sky to give a meaning to what we are doing here. To have someone that when we die can tell us, welcome home, my child. So we are the creators of everything. So that celestial Father will be there waiting for me after I die if I create him. We frustrate ourselves because of expectations. So Everything that we do is because of expectations. We expect things from ourselves. We expect things from someone in the skies creating the purpose of my own. We expect for people in the governments to do what we are supposed to do. We live through expectations, and that's why we get frustrated so fast. So I live through expectations, so whatever I expect from myself, from God, from a master, from the president, from an alien, all these expectations are the ones that frustrate me. I create them. So remember this, the purpose was only created so we could create a path. The expectations to fulfill this purpose is the designs that the mind, in its awareness, create as different possibilities to manifest the ways to reach that purpose. So, but if I attached myself, if I attach myself to the expectation or the purpose ahead, the only thing that I will find there is frustration. Remember, purpose and expectations are tools. Tools, not goals. The only objective or objective goal of this universe is the creation itself. So, with this information, each one of you do whatever you want. So, I myself have created my own path and purposes, what I am doing. But I know I created this in order to do things that I need for myself and that we all share. Ok, la vibración del día de hoy es, the vibration for today is view. View. The statement for today is, I am the home of the matrix. The code for today is path. Every line of the web, every artist, every edge in geometry is a different path, a specific path within the cosmos that relates different projected concepts. The key of universe's development is, hence, the transit on these strings of the web, making the experience of going through them. Every string vibrates in a different tuning, giving vibration, color, specific form, making every section unique and unrepeatable, and thus making all of us endless apprentices and masters. Let's go to the alignment. Close your eyes and sit comfortable. As I take deep breaths, I remind to my body that I am here to make it feel better, so I caress and stretch it. As I take deep breaths, I become aware of the environment I find myself in. With my imagination, I start to design the night in this place. The deep night sky full with stars. In front of me, I perceive a fire, and I feel the heat of it in my hands, my chest, and my face. I can observe now the fire, looking at its orange colors, bright, with the flames moving like snakes. I watch deeply this fire. And I recognize that I find myself in a circle with people surrounded the fire. I recognize that this fire is the light of the matrix, is the core that connects everything that I am, that generates, that creates my own self and the reality around me. That is the impulse of the matrix. And I recognize myself in this brightness, in this fire, as part of this creator. And this fire enlightens the faces of the people around me. And I recognize that they are all the ones that represent the frustrations in my life. Those people with whom I experience being frustrated. The leaves, partners, relationships, projects, all of them with whom I felt a fraud, deception. And I recognize that the only reason why I can see them is because they are enlightened, connected by the light of this fire that is the matrix. For they are my own expectations. They exist because I created them. Take a deep breath and start to vibrate, to integrate these frustrations, recognizing that they all are just expressions of myself. Recognizing that they all live within me, in my home, connected by the matrix. I am the home of the matrix. I am the home of Matrix. I am the home of Matrix. I am the home of Matrix. I am the creator. I take with my hands all this frustration and expectations and bring it back to my heart, to the fire, to transform them into new tools for my own creation. Take a deep breath and begin to bring all this consciousness through every part of my body. And each one at its own time, come back here and now. The task for today is to write down about all these frustrations. What do you feel about them? What are they? Thank you everybody for being here, as always. And like every day, see you tomorrow at the same time.